Guys, I want you to take this scenario and picture it in your head. It took me 4 years to get pregnant. Me and my husband had to do all sorts of treatment just to have a chance. Well, I finally just discovered that I was pregnant. The problem is, the wedding of my sister was coming up and she found out that I was pregnant. So guys, her bright idea on the day of the wedding was to lock me in a closet downstairs at the venue because she was scared I was going to take over the microphone and announce my pregnancy, so she didn't want all the eyes to be on her. How ridiculous, how self-centered, and now, well, I might have complications because I was stuck down in that basement with nothing to drink for hours until finally somebody came and rescued me. But you know, there's something else I haven't told you guys. Hey guys, I'm currently writing this from my hospital bed, hooked up to an IV after one of the most humiliating, infuriating, downright bizarre experiences of my life. I can't believe I'm even typing these words. I feel like I'm living in a bad soap opera and I desperately need help. My name's Sarah, I'm 29 years of age, and I've been married to my wonderful husband Ehtaan for 5 years. Our marriage has been one stable bright spot in my life, especially after years of dealing with my sister Emily, and the chaos that comes with being her sibling. For context, Emily's 26 and growing up, she has always been the golden child in our family. My parents absolutely doted on her. And while I was the responsible, dependable one, Emily got away with just about everything. She thrives on attention, always needing to be the center of the universe, and everyone, including me, has just sort of catered to, well, that over the years. It's exhausting, but I've always tried to keep the peace for the sake of my family. Ehtaan and I have been on a tough journey over the past 4 years. Trying to have a baby. Anyone who's gone through fertility treatments knows how emotionally, physically, financially draining that it actually is. We went through cycle after cycle of hope, only to face heartbreak each time. I can't even begin to describe the pain of seeing that negative test over and over again. The jealousy I felt when friends and family announced their pregnancies, the guilt of feeling like my body was failing me, and the fear that I'd never become a mom. It was a lot to carry. But finally, after 4 long years, we got the news that we were praying for. I'm pregnant. I'm currently 14 weeks along and everything seems to be going smoothly so far. Ehtaan and I were over the moon and we couldn't wait to share our joy with our loved ones. This brings me to the absolute nightmare that was Emily's engagement party. Emily got engaged to her fiancé Ryan about 6 months ago, and her engagement party was this past weekend. Of course, it had to be an over-the-top lavish event. Emily would not have it any other way. Think rented-out venue, live music, extravagant decorations, and a guest list that rivaled a small wedding. Ehtaan and I weren't exactly looking forward to it because these types of events are where Emily shines. And honestly, I usually feel like a prop in her world. But we went because despite everything, I still wanted to be supportive. She's my sister, after all. I wasn't planning to announce my pregnancy at her engagement party. Let me be clear about that. I know how Emily is about attention, and I would never intentionally steal her thunder. But when I saw some close family members, my aunt, my cousin, and my grandmother, I couldn't help but share the good news with them privately. I told them quietly, away from the main event, and they were also excited for me. It was such a relief to finally share our happiness after keeping it to ourselves for so long. What I didn't expect was everyone at the party to find out. I just thought I would tell the news to this small group of people as we ate muffins. And that would be it. But by the time it came out of my mouth, just as my family was congratulating me, one of my common friends was passing by. She turned around and said in her ever so annoying high-pitched voice, "What are we congratulating for?" And before I knew it, everyone started to gather around me and congratulate me. I mean, I don't blame them. Considering my history of struggling with conceiving, and since I was pretty vocal about my efforts and problems, everyone just seemed genuinely happy for me. And for the small moment, I just took it. I let this beautiful feeling sink in, and to be honest, I was almost crying from happiness. But what I didn't know while I was having such a wholesome moment was that someone else was burning in a 400-degree oven. It was Emily, of course, because my eyes darted to her. She was red with anger, and I'm not gonna lie, my soul just evaporated. I started going about cursing myself from the very moment because I simply knew Emily. She was going to wreak havoc. She stormed over to me in the middle of the party with her face like thunder and demanded to talk. I could feel the tension immediately, and she grabbed my arm tightly. I might add, and practically dragged me down a hallway to the basement of the venue. I was so stunned by her behavior that I just went along with it, assuming she wanted to have a private conversation, but that was a big mistake. Once we were in the basement, Emily went off on me. She accused me of deliberately trying to steal her spotlight, of being selfish and inconsiderate, and of making her engagement party all about me. I was flabbergasted. I tried to explain that I had not made any sort of public announcement, that I only shared the news with a few close relatives in private, but she wouldn't hear it. She kept yelling about how everything always has to be about me, which is ironic considering her entire life revolves around being the center of attention. Then out of nowhere she stormed out, slamming the door behind her, and at first I thought she just needed to cool off a bit and would come back to let me out, but no. I heard the unmistakable sound of the door locking. She had locked me in the basement, and I was in shock. I couldn't believe she would do something so childish and vindictive. I tried banging on the door and yelling for help, but nobody came. The basement was stuffy and poorly ventilated, and after a while I started feeling lightheaded. I had no water, no food, and no way to contact anyone because my phone was upstairs with Ethan. I don't know how much time passed, it felt like hours, but eventually I fainted from dehydration and stress. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed with Ethan by my side, looking completely distraught. Apparently, he had been frantically searching for me during the party and eventually heard my faint cries for help when the venue staff unlocked the basement door. He rushed me to the hospital, and now here I am, trying to process every single thing that happened. The doctor said the stress and dehydration might have harmed my pregnancy. They're running some tests and they can still hear the heartbeat of the baby, but they aren't saying anything and I don't know what to do. I'm still in shock over what Emily did, who locked their pregnant sister in a basement over something as petty as feeling like her spotlight was stolen. I feel hurt, angry, and betrayed. I always knew Emily could be self-centered and dramatic, but this was a whole new level of cruelty. And the worst part is, she hasn't even apologized. Instead, she's playing the victim, telling everyone that I ruined her engagement party and that I'm being overly dramatic about what happened. Ethan is furious and wants to cut Emily off, completely out of our lives, and he's already talking about going no contact with her, and honestly, I'm starting to agree with him. But part of me feels conflicted because she's my sister, and I've always been the one to keep the peace in our family. Emily's fiancé came to visit me and is downplaying the whole incident. He's saying Emily did not mean any harm and that I'm overreacting. He's urging me to forgive and forget because family is everything. Well, easy for him to say. He wasn't the one locked in a basement. I don't even know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm at a breaking point. How do I move forward from this? Do I cut Emily out of my life for good? Do I confront her and demand an apology? And most importantly, how do I protect my baby from the stress and drama that Emily inevitably brings? Right now, I'm leaning towards cutting her off from my life for good. But I don't know if I'm strong enough to deal with it all. I've always been the one to keep the peace, to put others' feelings ahead of my own. This time, though, I feel like I need to put myself and my baby first. So guys, what would you do if you found yourself in my shoes? How do you deal with a toxic family member who refuses to take accountability? If you made it this far, thank you for reading. I just need to get this off my chest, you know. Well, anyways, I'll update you soon enough. Update number 1. I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that happened since my original post. I didn't expect things to spiral even more, but here we are. I wanted to share an update because your support and advice have been a lifeline during this nightmare. After I was admitted to the hospital, Ethan and I learned the stress from being locked in that basement took a serious toll. My doctor explained that my pregnancy is now high risk. Hearing that was a punch to the gut. After the years of fertility treatments and heartbreak, to know my baby's life is hanging by a thread because of Emily? I can't even describe the rage I felt. and sadness. While I've been here resting and trying to stay calm for the sake of the baby, Ethan has been handling the rest. My parents came to visit, furious about what Emily did. But when they confronted her, she brushed it off, like it was no big deal. Can you believe it? She actually had the audacity to claim I was being dramatic about the whole situation. Here's the thing. Instead of apologizing or showing even an ounce of remorse, Emily threw another engagement party just to make up for the first one. Yep, while I'm in a hospital bed fighting to protect my baby, she's out there playing the victim and celebrating herself. I can't believe it. When Ethan told me, Ethan wasn't going to let her get away with it though. He decided to confront her at the party, and I didn't know that he was going until after it happened. But I'm glad that he went because things needed to be said. From what Ethan told me, the party was just as over the top as the first one, and Emily soaking up all the attention like nothing had happened. He walked in and immediately called her out in front of all the guests. He told everyone exactly what she did to me, locking me in the basement, leaving me to faint from dehydration and stress, and how her actions put our baby at risk. Emily's in-laws were apparently horrified. They had no idea what kind of person she really was. They left the party early, taking Michael with them, and Ethan said the entire room was dead silent as they walked out. Emily tried to laugh it off and act like Ethan was the crazy one, but nobody was buying it. When Ethan came back and told me what happened, I felt so many emotions at once. Relief, because someone finally held her accountable. Anger, because she's still trying to act like she's the victim. And honestly, sadness, because no matter how awful she's been, she's still my sister. But the truth is, I can't focus on her anymore. My priority has to be my baby and my health, and Ethan and I are cutting her out of our lives for the foreseeable future. She's made it clear she doesn't care about me, my family, or the consequences of her actions. I'm not sure what'll happen next. I don't know if Michael will break off the engagements, or if her in-laws will forgive her. Part of me doesn't even care at this point. All I care about is protecting my baby and moving forward with my husband. Thank you again for your support, guys. I will keep you updated if anything else happens. But for now, I just need to focus on healing. For myself and my baby, and if you ever have to deal with a toxic family member, I would love to hear how you handle it. I feel like I need all the advice that I can get. Update number 2. I'm back with another update, and this time I'm writing from the comfort of my own home. It feels so good to be out of the hospital, but I'm still shaken by everything that's happened, and my baby is okay for now. But the doctors were very clear. I'm now considered high risk, and I absolutely have to avoid stress. If I don't, it could have severe consequences, not just for my baby, but for my life as well. That warning hit me hard after everything Ethan and I have been through to get this point. The idea that something or someone could jeopardize it is terrifying. That's why I've made the decision to put my foot down with everyone in my life, starting with my parents. When they came over to check on me, I didn't welcome them with open arms. I was still angry. For years, they've been blind to Emily's manipulation, self-centered behavior. They've even enabled her, catered to her, and let her act like a golden child without even holding her accountable. And now, look where we are. She's done something so cruel and reckless that it could have cost me my baby. I think something finally clicked for them. For the first time, they did not try to argue back or justify her actions. Instead, they sat there quietly, looking like they had just been hit by a truck. My dad eventually admitted that they had been blind to Emily's manipulation for years. He even said they never realized how much it had hurt me until now. Hearing that was bittersweet. Part of me wanted to scream, well, it's about time. But another part of me just felt sad that it took something this extreme for them to wake up. Here's the shocking part. My parents told me they're cutting off all financial support for Emily's wedding. That's a huge deal because they've been footing the bill for her fairy tale wedding. They said they couldn't, in good conscience, continue to enable her behavior after what she did. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a little vindicated hearing that. For once, Emily is finally facing consequences for her actions. But at the same time, I know this is just the beginning. Emily isn't going to take this lightly. And I have no doubt that she'll find a way to make herself the victim in all of this. Even though my parents' decision is a step in the right direction, I'm not ready to forgive them yet. It's going to take time to heal from years of feeling like I was second best. Right now, my focus has to be on my health and my baby. I can't afford to let their guilt or Emily's inevitable tantrum drag me back into the chaos. As for my parents, I told them they needed to prove they were serious about changing before I'd even consider letting them back into my life. Words are one thing, but I needed to see real action. Cutting off Emily financially is a start, but it does not erase the years of hurt. For now, I'm trying to focus on the positives, like the fact that my baby is okay and that Ethan and I are stronger than ever. Thank you for the support and advice. It's been comforting to know I'm not alone, and your words have truly kept me grounded. I'll update again if there's any more drama, because let's be real, with Emily there always is. But for now, I'm focusing on peace, healing, and my family growing. Update number 3. I did not think things could get any more chaotic, but guys, here we are. Since my parents decided to cut off financial support for Emily's wedding, things have gone completely off the rails. Emily took the news about as well as you would expect, meaning not well at all. She threw an absolute tantrum at my parents' house, screaming about how they were ruining her life and threatening to call off the wedding altogether. Well, when the theatrics didn't work, she took it a step further and threatened to take her own existence. Well, that was a horrifying moment. But my parents, who were finally starting to see her for who she is, did not take the bait. They told her to stop with the dramatics and reminded her that she needed to take responsibility for her actions. Instead of calming down, Emily stormed out of their house and, to my dismay, showed up at my door. I was sitting in the living room trying to rest after a stressful day, when she barged in without warning. Her eyes wild with anger, and she immediately began cursing me out, and she blamed me for everything. My parents cutting her off, the tension with her fiancé, and even her so-called ruined reputation. She called me names I would not repeat here, accusing me of being jealous of her and saying I'd orchestrated this entire mess to bring her down. Honestly, it was like watching a train wreck. I could not get a word in, and every attempt to de-escalate just made her angrier. What Emily did not realize was that her fiancé Michael was in the house. He had come over earlier to try to mend the relationship between us sisters. I guess he thought he could smooth things over and get everybody on the exact same page. Well, if he had any illusions about Emily's true colors, they were shattered that night. Michael came out of the guest room when he heard her yelling and immediately confronted her. He told her that he had been ignoring her behavior for far too long because he loved her. He said he wanted to believe that she could change, but her decent actions, especially locking me in the basement and putting my baby at risk, proved she did not care about anyone but herself. Emily tried to interrupt, claiming she'd only acted out because she was stressed. But Michael was not having it. He told her that stress does not justify harming her own sister and her unborn child. He said he could not marry somebody who was so selfish and vindictive, no matter how much he loved her. Then he grabbed his jacket and walked out. Emily, in full panic mode, ran after him, but not before turning back to throw one last insult my way, and she called me a homewrecker, blamed me for ruining her life, and then she slammed the door and chased after Michael. As for me, the whole situation left me feeling shaky and lightheaded. Ethan helped me to the couch and I drank some water while trying to calm down. We checked my blood pressure and it turned out to be high, probably from stress. Thankfully, after a bit of rest, I started to feel better. But the scare was a reminder how much I needed to prioritize my health right now. Ethan is livid. He wants to file a restraining order against Emily to keep her away from me, and honestly, I'm starting to think that's not really a bad idea. I don't know what's going on and what's going to happen next. Emily's probably out there trying to convince Michael to take her back. But judging by the look on his face when he left, I doubt that she'll succeed. As for my parents, they're heartbroken. Cutting Emily off financially was one thing, but seeing their daughter spiral like that has been devastating for them. At this point, I just want peace. I want to focus on my baby, my husband, and my own well-being. If Emily can't get her act together on her own, that's on her. I've done everything I can to just extend the olive branch, but she's burned every single bridge. Update number 4. Things have taken yet another dramatic turn in the ongoing saga of Emily and her self-centered mess. It's been a few days since she showed up to my house and Michael walked out on her. I've been trying to focus on my health and my baby, but the ripple effects of Emily's action are impossible to ignore. Word has it that Michael had asked Emily for a break. According to mutual family members, he told her he needed space to think about their relationship. Apparently, he's struggling to reconcile the woman he fell in love with and the vindictive, selfish person that she's shown herself to be. From what I've heard, Emily is not handling this well. She's been blowing up Michael's phone, alternating between begging him to come back and accusing him of betraying her. But Michael, to his credit, seems to be standing firm. For the first time, it seems like someone in her life isn't willing to excuse her behavior. As if that wasn't enough, the infamous basement incident, it's become a hot topic amongst our extended family and friends. I'm not sure how it got out, but it's now common knowledge that Emily locked me in a basement during her engagement party. People are appalled, and rightfully so. Family WhatsApp groups have been absolutely blowing up with discussions about Emily's actions. At first, it was mostly expressions of shock and disbelief. People could not believe that she'd go so far as to put my health and my baby's health at risk. But then, as more people chimed in, the conversation took a sharp turn. It seems Emily has a long history of mistreating others in the family. And now that the floodgates are open, everyone has something to say. Cousins, aunts, uncles, you name it, have been sharing stories of how Emily has slighted them over the years. One cousin shared how Emily deliberately ruined her favorite dress at a family gathering years ago because she didn't like the color. Another talked about how Emily constantly belittled her during their school years, calling her names and making fun of her in front of others. An uncle brought up how Emily made a scene at his daughter's wedding because she wasn't seated at the table that she wanted. The list goes on and on. It's like people have been holding in their grievances for years, and now they finally feel like they can speak up. The general consensus is, that Emily has always been manipulative and self-centered. But her latest stunt crossed a line no one can ignore. My parents, who are also part of these groups, are reeling from the revelation. I think they're finally starting to see the full scope of the damages they're enabling, and it's caused this. They've been quiet in the chats, which is unusual for them. But I can only imagine how hard it must have been for them to hear all of this. I mean, come on. As for Emily, I don't think she's even aware of exactly how much damage control that she'll need to do. She's focused on trying to win Michael back. She's completely oblivious to how her reputation is crumbling around her. To be honest, I have mixed feelings about all this. On one hand, it's validating to see others acknowledge her behavior and support me in calling her out. On the other hand, it's heartbreaking to see how much pain and conflict she's caused within the family. For now, I'm staying out of the drama as much as I can. My priority is keeping myself and my baby safe and healthy. Even Ethan and I are trying to focus on preparing for our baby's arrival. Whatever happens, I know one thing is for sure. For the first time in years, I feel like I have the support of my family and the courage to stand up for myself. Update number 5. This is it. This is probably just going to be my last update, and oh boy, it's been quite satisfying, if I dare say so myself. Things have finally come to a head with Emily, and I can confidently say karma has done its thing. After the WhatsApp group blew up, with people recounting Emily's past behavior, she tried to fight back. In typical Emily fashion, she turned the blame on me, claiming that I exaggerated the basement incident to make her look bad. She called me dramatic and insisted that she only wanted to talk privately and things got out of hand. But nobody was buying it. Too many people had witnessed my condition after the incident, and honestly, her track record of manipulating situations did not help her case. The family called her out, pointing out how she had been enabled for years and never took accountability for her actions. The real twist, though, came from Michael. After taking some time to think during their break, he made his decision. He called off the engagement, saying he could not marry somebody who could be so cruel, especially to her own sister. Michael's own words were apparently direct and cutting. He told Emily he'd ignore a lot of red flags because he loved her, but this incident opened his eyes. Emily was devastated. She tried to guilt trip him into staying, but Michael would not budge. I heard from mutual family members that he returned the engagement ring and told her that he did not want to continue the relationship. Watching her lose the person she thought she could always manipulate was, in one word, poetic. Well, as for me, things have taken much of a brighter turn. My pregnancy is stabilized and my doctors are optimistic about both my and my baby's health. Ehtaan has been incredible throughout all this, making sure I have everything I need and keeping me as stress-free as possible. The real surprise came from my parents. After years of turning a blind eye to her behavior, they've finally started to make amends. They've been incredibly supportive, and to show how much they care, they decided to throw me a baby shower. The baby shower was everything I could have hoped for. The whole family showed up, bringing love, gifts, and heartful apologies for not standing up to Emily sooner. For the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy and supported by the people around me. And, then there was Emily. She showed up uninvited, sitting quietly in the corner, looking miserable. No one really engaged with her, and she did not try to steal the spotlight for once. It was as if she was finally realizing that actions indeed have consequences, and she was left to deal with it alone. I'm not gonna lie, it felt good to see her face the repercussions of her choices. But more than that, it felt amazing to celebrate this new chapter of my life surrounded by positivity and love. I think I'm finally at peace now. Thanks for being here through it all. Once again, see ya.